Mickey au Camp de Gurs, Mickey Mouse in the Gurs internment camp, is 1942 French comic booklet by German-born French cartoonist of Jewish descent Horst Rosenthal. It was created while Rosenthal was prisoner at the Gurs internment camp in France during World War II. The comic features Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse, who is arrested on suspicion of being Jewish and is sent to Gurs. Rosenthal acknowledged the source of his protagonist by adding Publié sans Autorisation de Walt Disney, published without Walt Disney's permission, to the front cover. Rosenthal was detained in Gurs for 2 years, before being sent to Auschwitz in September 1942. He was murdered on the day of his arrival. Mickey au Camp de Gurs was first published in 2014 in Paris by Calmann-Lévy and the Mémorial de la Shoah, 72 years after it was written. Mickey au Camp de Gurs has been called one of the earliest surviving examples of comic from the Holocaust, and perhaps the earliest sequential art narrative dealing with the Holocaust. Synopsis: Mickey au Camp de Gurs features and is narrated by Mickey Mouse of Walt Disney fame. Mickey is arrested in France by the Vichy gendarmerie for being unable to produce identity papers. He tells the judge he has no mother and that his father is Walt Disney. When asked if he is Jewish, Mickey replies that he has no idea about that. The judge concludes that Mickey must be Jewish, and he is sent to the Gurs internment camp. There he observes the camp's harsh living conditions with its oppressive rules. He needs magnifying glass to see his food ration and meets several inmates who appear to be in collusion with the authorities. Mickey finally decides that this is not for him and, since he is a cartoon character, he erases himself from the camp and redraws himself walking to America. Artwork and publication history: Mickey au Camp de Gurs is 15-page, 13-panel comic strip written and illustrated by Rosenthal. He created it using ink and watercolor on A5 paper. The fourth panel, pictured, includes photograph of the Gurs internment camp showing dozens of barracks in rows. It was pasted onto the comic book page alongside the text and drawing of startled Mickey staring at his first glimpse of the camp. In 1978 Mickey au Camp de Gurs was donated to the Centre de Documentation with Contemporain, Center of Contemporary Jewish Documentation, in Paris by the Hansbacher family. How they acquired the book is not known. It became known to wider audience in 2011 when Art Spiegelman, creator of the 1991 graphic novel Moz, which also depicts Jews as mice, mentioned it in his book, Meta Moz. Spiegelman wrote that his discovery of Rosenthal's comic was another validation that it stumbled onto a way of telling that had deep roots. Mickey au Camp de Gurs was first published in 2014, along with 2 of Rosenthal's other comic books he had created while interned in Gurs, by Calmann-Lévy and the Mémorial de la Shoah in Paris. The collection, entitled Mickey au Gurs, Les Carnets de Dessin de Horst Rosenthal, Mickey in Gurs, the comic books of Horst Rosenthal, was compiled and edited by Belgian political scientist and historian Joel Kotek, and French journalist and curator Didier Passimonic. Critical analysis: Glenn Morgan described Mickey au Camp de Gurs as blend of Walt Disney and Hergé that deploys critique and darkly comic parody. Kjell Nugg characterized the comic as strange clash between childish innocence and the harsh reality of Nazi politics and war. Bernard Marx called Rosenthal's work an offbeat and very moving testimony of the horror lived. Morgan said Mickey Mouse is both an American outsider and Jewish inmate, making him metatextual, being able to transcend the reality of the situation and give Rosenthal an otherwise unobtainable point of view. Morgan called the last page of the comic, Fictional Fantastica, and drew parallels between Mickey erasing himself and the Nazis erasing the Jews. Nina Rosenberg wrote that the cover of Rosenthal's comic showing smiling Mickey Mouse in concentration camp creates an incongruity that grows as the story progresses. The dissonance culminates when Mickey decides to escape his absurd, Kafkaesque predicament, and erases himself to flee to the land of liberty, equality and fraternity. But he makes it clear it is America he is going to, not France, which has abandoned its national motto, Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, turned its back on human rights and become anti-Semitic. Alistair Wedderburn suggested that by portraying concentration camp in comic, Rosenthal suspends reality and creates parallel camp space which his cartoon character can investigate and question with latitude that would be impossible within the material camp itself. Wedderburn explained that Mickey explores Gurs with childlike naivete. He is unable to understand the purpose of the camp and its rules of conduct, and is puzzled rather than shocked by it. Rosenberg said Rosenthal uses Disney's mouse to convey the surrealistic situation the camp's inmates found themselves in, and sharply criticizes the French government for forsaking them. Marx remarked that by making the protagonist cartoon character, Rosenthal emphasizes the absurdity of their situation. Comparisons have been made between Rosenthal's Mickey au Camp de Gurs and Spiegelman's Moz. Lisa Naomi Mullman wrote that the remarkable power of both works is in the graphics, which integrates textual and illustrative materials, producing profoundly ironic and telling juxtapositions. But she said that the most notable similarity is the depiction of the Jew as mouse. Robert G. Weiner and Lynn Falwell noted that Rosenthal's use of Mickey Mouse illustrates how Jews are made into the other, something that is subhuman. Richard Marin Barsom stated that in the 1940 Nazi propaganda film The Eternal Jew, Jews are equated to rats, and Hitler, who claimed that he Jews are undoubtedly race, but they are not human, called mice malignant species. Mullman opined that by depicting Jews as mice, Rosenthal and Spiegelman metaphorically engage Hitler's malevolent racial allegations. Stephen Feinstein wrote that Rosenthal's statement published without Walt Disney's permission on the front cover of Mickey au Camp de Gurs illustrated the author's concern about infringing copyright. Feinstein suggested that Rosenthal's unofficial comic highlighted the irony that the legal protection afforded copyright something stronger, even in the present eras, than protection of people. Nudd noted that the comic's optimistic ending suggested that Rosenthal believed that he too would be set free, and was oblivious of what the Nazis had planned for him and the other detainees. Nudd said that Rosenthal's fate casts wrying dark shadow over his writings. Wedderburn emphasized the obvious overtone and pathos that clouds the comic. While Mickey can escape his cartoon world, his author remains captive in the material world. See also Anthropomorphism. Notes, references, citations, sources, works cited, external links. Mickey au Camp de Gurs, all the panels at Le Figaro. Mickey A.